5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey, what's up? Welcome into the first episode of Geek Garage Goes to the Movies in a long time. It feels like it's been like 10 years.
Yes.
In movie time.
What's movie time?
There would be a montage.
Of
boring shit.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that we can just kind of glaze over.
Yeah. So, high level view, as we mentioned on the last pod, David just got done moving.
Yes.
We are recording from the new studio, which is basically the rumpus room.
Yes.
Called out. But it's nice. It's a nice setup. You're still in the process of getting settled, but it's good. I'm liking what I've seen so far.
Yeah,
There's a door. That's a plus right there.
Right. Yeah, that was something that I could not say from the old studio. There was no old studio.
That was your kitchen.
Right. Yeah. We just. Oh, God, scared the shit out of me. Sorry, my son is. Speaking of now having a door,
he can now effectively ignore his children.
Right.
Every father's dream.
Yes. And he is now peering in from the glass French doors that you may have noticed in the pictures that I posted on social media.
He has not quite figured out the art of the doorknob yet, so we have at least another month of safe recording in this studio. This is our safe space studio.
Right.
So no judgment zone right here.
Yeah.
But again, congrats on the new place. It's
Thank
looking
you.
good. I know once you're completely settled, it'll be the bomb, as
Yes.
the children say. If they still say that, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't really pay attention to what the kids say nowadays.
I'm old, so I have no idea. And you know how I know I'm old? I learned that when we went to a Kayakon.
Yeah.
So for those of you that met us at a Kayakon, none of you were listening, so it doesn't matter. Our Kayakon was such a disaster through no fault of the convention. You know, that was definitely 100% on us.
No, we were just 100% unprepared.
Not prepared whatsoever. Unprepared completely.
Which is ridiculous because I've been to conventions before, like a KaiCon, specifically a KaiCon and MTAC, and I knew exactly what we needed to do. But
and then we did none of those things.
Right. We did some, but not the biggest, most important.
In fact,
things
we completely blew off registration. You straight up were like, "Yeah, we'll be there Saturday, maybe, probably."
No. Okay, as far as registration goes, we registered. We just didn't show up at the appropriate time. We showed up.
We strolled in like bosses the next day. Like, where's our shit?
Right.
And then we had to wait like idiots at the desk because nobody was expecting us.
No, we definitely suffered the circumstance.
So joke is on us as usual.
Right.
But I'm so bad with names. I can't remember the names of the lady that checked us in and helped us get set up.
So I've actually been trying to find out her last name. Her first name was Lauren, and
I'm sure she's probably good with us not putting her full name out there.
Sure.
So Lauren from McKayCon, thank you a lot. That was
you're the
awesome.
best. If you happen to be listening or go back,
you did take one of our buttons and put it on your jacket, which that's basically like the podcast version of going study. So thank you for that.
Right. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure she has a husband who's probably gonna. You can probably kick my ass.
Nah.
You were a nice lady, so thank you for all your help, as well as your unpaid intern Bree was a lot of help as well. I don't know any of the other names of any of the people that worked there, but everybody was really nice. The people from Evansville from the other convention were super cool too. Didn't get any of their names. Sorry about that. To the short, buzzed-cutted woman who yeeted our table. That was the highlight of the weekend, basically.
It was.
She just basically commandeered our table, and we were like, you know what, fuck it, just take it.
Right, yeah, the booth right next to us, the folks running the con that's from Evansville, they were doing this.
Like a giveaway and like a trivia thing. And
it was not a tic-tac-toe, but a bingo.
Photo bingo.
Yeah, where you had to get like selfies with different, fandoms and stuff. And
extremely popular.
Right, and she was getting all of them, but she used our table as
like her command center.
Right, to post up and put like her cosplay props and stuff while she
was a very intense person also.
Indeed.
Like, I'm a very intense person, and I was like, yo, It's crazy.
Right. I feel. I mean, I can't exactly remember what she was cosplaying as, but
a devil or a demon of some sort.
Yeah, I feel like she would have been a pretty good Furiosa. Cosplay.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a good call.
And of course, not just because of the buzz cut.
That did help.
Yes, it definitely doesn't hurt.
Although she did have both her arms, so she's gonna have to really commit to that one.
Right. Yeah. Or have some sort of prosthetic prosthesis.
We're method.
Oh, okay. My bad. My bad.
But again, thank you to all the people at KaiCon. We did get to meet a few people. Unfortunately, we can't remember everybody's names, but thank you to the people we did meet.
Right.
That took our buttons and said they would subscribe. Thank you for lying to us. That made us feel good for the weekend.
Right.
We didn't make it Sunday due to some stuff outside of our control, but that's not here nor there. We have a couple other things coming up that we're going to try and get to. The first is GalaxyCon up in Louisville, right? Louisville, Kentucky.
Yep.
We reached out to get some stuff going about being involved in that in some capacity. We will have a banner by then, hopefully, maybe a couple of them.
That was our key missing ingredient for a KaiCon is some sort of
also personality and charisma. Those are the other missing ingredients of success.
Yeah, the ability to talk to people. Passerbys.
Yeah.
It also doesn't hurt to have something that says who you are, like a banner.
Right, so that takes away
attention.
some of the stranger danger, I guess you could say, of two random men. One of them who is a giant at the convention.
Like, people literally had to get, face to face with us to see who the fuck we were.
Yeah.
Because the only indication as to who we were our buttons, and we had buttons to give away.
Our 8.5 by 11 printed out flyers.
Right, which did not have our logo on
it. Did not have the logo or the name.
Again, me winning.
Prepared. Super.
Yes.
But it was a lot of fun. Thank you to everybody who came by the table and talked for a while. If you're new to the podcast, this is our movie-specific edition.
Yeah.
Again, we're going to try and be at GalaxyCon in Louisville. We're also going to try and shoot for YamaCon in Pigeon Forge. That's in December, I think it is. And that'll kind of round up the year. Of course, we'll be back at MTAC next year, next spring. We had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. That was my first time going this last year. I had a ton of fun. Too much fun, probably, in some ways, but that's the name of the game.
Yeah, well, we did the guerrilla marketing for MTAC for this year, and we're going to see about doing... being in the artist/vendor alley this year, or for 2020, and it's one of the most popular conventions here in Middle Tennessee. So
for sure.
they have a very long legacy list of vendors and artists that have been coming for a while. So I think their spots are pretty limited. So we may or may not, have a artist table,
like an official table,
right? But if that's
we're definitely going to be there regardless.
Right. Yeah, because it's still a good time
for sure. One thing that was cool. One last thing about a KaiCon, then we'll move on. That I thought was cool is there were a few people that were like, "Hey, I remember you guys at MTAC."
Yeah, and
I'm choosing to take that in a positive way.
We really have no other choice but to hope for the best.
I'm assuming positive intent because they didn't scream and run away or call security or one of the weird looking police officers.
As tears come down their face.
Yeah, they were there and it was terrible and their podcast is shit. And scene. But it was a ton of fun. So in addition to all that on the hiatus, I know we saw a bunch of movies both individually and we saw a few together. So I guess we'll talk about those.
Right.
Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about there's basically Midsommar and the Art of Self-Defense.
We saw both of those. Are those the only two we saw together?
I think so.
I think you're right.
Yeah, let's start with Midsommar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Midsommar is a follow-up to Hereditary from director Ari Aster. Aster. I'm not
Ari Aster.
Ari Aster. That's a strange. The A's. Anyway.
Right, because it kind of sounds like Ari Asshole.
Your words. His much anticipated follow-up to Hereditary, which despite its many flaws, I enjoyed a lot. That was one of my I'd say probably top 3 or 5 movies of 2018. Very deeply unsettling the first time I saw it. Very good movie, but enough about that. Midsommar is his follow-up. It's very, like I said, very highly anticipated at the time. It's been out for a couple of months now. I want to say it came out in June, so it may not even be in theaters anymore, but it's definitely worth checking out. David, what were your thoughts on it?
So I had a lot of... It was definitely one of those movies where my thoughts evolved quite a bit over time as I thought about it. And my thoughts didn't really evolve from like, oh, I love this, to maybe it wasn't as great as now that I've thought about it a little bit more. It wasn't one of those things. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of thinking about it in different lights,
right?
As time goes on and you kind of consider certain things. But with all that said, it has been, a little bit since I have just in general thought about it.
Right.
So with all that said, I'll kind of keep it brief and just kind of broad strokes. I liked it. I didn't like it as much as Hereditary, but I thought it was pretty effective in what it was trying to accomplish, or what I feel like it was trying to accomplish. And, just all like other art films, like Hereditary and Midsommar and other, types of arty horror movies. It's definitely open to interpretation, but the thing that stands out the most is just it being a horror movie, yet none of it really takes place at night, which is very bizarre for a horror movie. I mean, it's not necessarily where like every horror movie has to have like, night scenes or has to take place all at night, but you look at like the most effective horror movies, or not effective horror movies, or just horror movies in general, and most of them take place at night.
Right. They tend to prey on that very primal fear of the dark and the unknown.
Right.
Right.
And that's one thing that I think was one of his things going in. It wasn't... I don't think it was his number one goal to be like, hey, look, I'm going to make a really effective horror movie and it's going to be set in the daytime, and that's going to be the number one thing, is like, I'm going to scare the shit out of you, but it's going to be in the day. Mm-hmm. I don't think that was his number one like idea going into the movie, trying to do with this, but it was an effective piece of the the overall scope of the movie. So, that and the storyline, like, I mean, you seem to have a better grasp.
I have a lot of thoughts on it.
What, as we were watching the movie, you had a better idea as to where it was going. Mm-hmm. It had me guessing a lot more than you did. And I think that ties into me, like, kind of turning off the logic in my brain a little bit when I
just like experiencing it,
right. And plus there's not a whole lot of logic going on to begin with, but regardless, I just kind of I do that from most of the time when I watch those kinds of movies, is because I want to let it just unfold,
right, and
just kind of experience it instead of like guessing at it. Not digging at any other person's way to experience movies, but that's just kind of. But yeah, I'll kind of pass it on to you to give your thoughts on it.
So, in the immediacy of seeing it, so as we're walking out of the theater, I remember telling you, I was like, I feel.
Yeah, sorry, my son is still out of bed.
I remember in the immediacy after seeing it telling you, like, I don't think I'm disappointed necessarily, but I don't know that I really liked it too terribly much.
Sure.
Like, I got it. It wasn't like it went over my head, or like I didn't catch some of the symbolism or whatever that he was going for. Like, I got it. It's just one of those, in the immediacy of it, I wasn't able to fully appreciate it, I think. Because the more I thought about it, the more I was like, that was a damn good movie. Mm-hmm. I liked it more than Hereditary. I think that if you look at it as, like, Hereditary is a better horror movie, right? It's scarier.
Right.
Midsommar is not without its scares, but it's not an out-and-out horror movie like Hereditary was, or like you think of when you think of like a horror movie, right? It's more like The Wicker Man, the good Wicker Man from the 70s, on a really bad acid trip. So it's like I said, it's not really scary as such. It's definitely tense, particularly the first 2/3 or so of the movie are super, super tense.
Right.
And it's definitely weird. The director himself mentioned to him it was kind of like the Wizard of Oz for perverts.
Yeah.
I think that was his quote. At the time, I was like, that's just a funny thing to say. But now after seeing it, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I went back and listened to that A24 podcast episode and
the one with him and Robert Eggers.
Yeah. And I heard that and I was like, I guess that makes sense, but I would definitely have to kind of think about it and probably rewatch Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
To kind of get that, because I haven't seen that movie in a long ass time.
But I kind of dig what he was saying. One of the things that I really enjoyed about this movie, and Aster is really good at as a whole, is like his transitions from shot to shot, or like his cuts. And I know he's got like an editor and everything. It's not all on him, so
right.
I shouldn't give him all the credit. But I should say that his team, so to speak. There was one transition where Danny runs into the bathroom of the apartment.
Yeah.
The camera goes like up and through the wall, and then it transitions to her in like the airplane bathroom.
Right, but it's
awesome.
Yeah, it
it's
is
so
smooth. It's so seamless that you can't even tell that
it just like happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you can't tell that it's an airport bathroom airplane bathroom because until like it kind of gives you a different angle and you clearly see that she's in an airplane bathroom.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed about it, or I guess, one thing I noticed about it, there's this weird flip, which, I mean, spoiler alert, should have mentioned that off the top, but spoiler alert. At first, when the American characters get there, the cult seems really foreign and like other, right? But there's this flip through the movie at a certain point in the movie where it's like, man, it kind of makes sense. And then like the Americans are othered, and they're like the strangers to us, which is weird because for us, at least, in particular, what I'm speaking of is like we're the American audience. It shouldn't be that way, but it was really well done, I thought.
I'm sorry, I was just going to chime in real quick. I think a lot of that has to do with the way that the script was written. A really good example of what I'm talking about with how when you say that it's kind of flipped, midway through or whenever, is that the scene where the two elders dive off of the big cliff, and they're calming those the two people.
They're from London,
right? And they're trying to calm them
remember
down.
the characters' names.
Trying to let them know that it's all part of like the Midsommar process.
Circle of life.
And how they think they're crazy for thinking that. It's crazy to see these two people diving off of a cliff.
Like they're choosing this, and like whereas in your culture you just like ship them to a home or whatever. To us, that's crazy.
Right? Yeah. So
definitely, and it's a really good sleight of hand because as you find out, the characters, the American characters, with the exception of Danny, are all fucking awful.
Yes,
they're all awful.
They are really fucking terrible. I mean, you could make an argument that the. I really don't want to say the black dude, but
he's writing his thesis on the on them.
He aside from Danny, he's probably the least shittiest character, but I mean they all have their moments.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because basically I'm going to include Danny in my shit list.
Okay,
right, to a lesser degree, and I want to put a pin in that because I have some thoughts on that as well. But like they're shitty to one another, right? They're all shitty to Danny because they've basically told her boyfriend Christian like dump her for the last however long,
right?
And out of guilt he feels like he should stay with her because it's something that happens that I don't want to spoil because it's one of the most powerful scenes in the movie,
right?
That happens to her, and it's just like that was like fucking uncomfortable as shit to watch. It was one of the best like openings to a movie for a horror movie, at least that I've seen. It was fucking uncomfortable.
How come you don't want to spoil it? I mean, like we always do spoilers.
That's true, but I think for this one, it's so impactful and it sets up the rest of the movie so well. it would like be doing a disservice.
Okay.
That's my opinion. If
Okay.
I'm not gonna. If you want to talk about it, I'm not gonna stop.
No,
you from
I mean
it,
it's like I feel like we're kind of on the same plane. Where I mean, if we do talk about it, it would just be like, wasn't that so fucked up? It was fucked up.
Yeah. So go into that part blind, but the rest of the movie is like, and that sounds counterintuitive, but some of the rest of the movie I'm fine with spoiling. So they're all shitty. The other character who I can't remember his name, but he's what else was he in? He was in that We're the Millers movie, I think it was, with.
Oh yeah,
he's in that movie. He's the kid with the eyebrows. That's how a lot of people on the internet were talking about it. And I feel bad that I don't know his name.
Right, but he was probably the most shittiest.
You could make a case for that.
I mean, he's like the typical guy. If you want to stereotype his character as the guy who goes overseas with the 100% intentions of getting laid by some
the obnoxious douche bro. Yeah,
right.
And he plays that role super well. The actor is super effective. Like everybody is good in this movie. Right. But his character he meets a very. It's hard to say deserved because he gets murdered and skinned, but kind of deserved.
Yeah.
And then the switch. So Danny. Man, I'm very torn on her story because on the one hand, it's like it's all based on a lie.
Mm-hmm.
But she does kind of find the family she's lost.
Right.
So I'm very torn. I think she's probably the least shitty up to a point, and then she makes a strong play to be the most shitty by letting her fucking boyfriend die in a fire, literally. But I think it's a better movie than Hereditary was. I think it's a more realized movie than Hereditary was. There's supposed to be a director's cut floating around that's like 30 to 40 minutes longer, I think he was saying on that podcast he talked about. I would be super into that, even though the movie's already like 2 hours and 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that.
Sure.
I thoroughly enjoyed it and would watch another half hour of it for sure.
Yeah, I would. I would definitely say the same. I think the general consensus out of everyone who has seen Hereditary and then has seen Midsommar is that if you enjoyed Hereditary, then you will enjoy this.
Yeah, like I said, it's definitely not a horror movie in the same way that Hereditary was. There's some scary parts for sure, but it's not the same sort of. It doesn't have that same just like uncomfortable feeling that Hereditary had from the second the movie started. Something just felt off.
One thing that it does do really effectively, I mean, it does a lot of things effectively, but one thing that I thought it did really well is, I mean. They're basically from the time they step onto soil in Sweden.
It's set in Sweden. Yeah.
They're basically under some kind of psychotropic substances, whether it's mushrooms or poison tea that
basically mushroom tea.
Right. Yeah. And they whoever edited or did the special effects did a really good job of kind of mixing in this wavy looking,
I've never done acid or mushrooms or any psychotropics, but
it seems like this would.
Well, I've heard from people that have. They're like, yeah, that's pretty much what it's like.
Right. Yeah. I assume that was kind of the intent.
Right.
Of this effect. Of
it's just supposed to be disconcerting. Right. And it works. It's really effective.
Right.
I agree
especially with especially the dinner scenes. Or the lunch scene. I mean, it's all in broad daylight for the most part, but they, you're like looking at this mystery meat and you don't know what the fuck it is, and
it's like moving,
right, and
blinking,
right, and you're just like not only is it weird that the picture is wavy, but like. You see this meat that's the centerpiece of their meal, and it's also wavy, and you don't know what this meat is, like what animal it came from.
Right. One last thing I want to mention about the movie that caught me really off guard is how fucking funny it is.
Okay.
Because like even like the most shocking horror movie. Like, comedy is a part of life, so it's basically any movie you watch is going to have something funny about it. Even if it's just, like, one line in the movie that's like, You know, this movie is like it's basically I view it as like a dark comedy more than anything. And there are parts of it that like
I got that.
Some of it was intentionally funny, like comic relief.
Right.
Some of it was just more like nervous, uncomfortable laughter. Mm-hmm. There's one scene with Christian that the whole theater was laughing, and not in like a "oh my god, that's so funny" way, but in a more like "holy shit, is this happening" kind of way.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool. Like I said, it's a much different movie than Hereditary. It's not as scary as Hereditary was in a lot of ways, but it does have some moments. It's very tense. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, Ari Aster gets a break on that podcast. He said that he basically worked for like 2.5 years straight. He went right from Hereditary before it even released, started on pre-production for this. So hopefully he gets a well-deserved break. But I'm looking forward to whatever he decides to do next.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's kind of, now that we've rambled on about that.
Yeah. Well, we can dive into the art of self-defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which wasn't 100% a black comedy.
Yeah, for sure it was. It was very effective in achieving that goal. We both left the theater like that. We weren't sure what to expect. Like we didn't put too much thought into going to see this movie.
That was kind of one of those like, hey, do you want to go to the movies? Yeah, what's playing?
Right. Yeah. It was one of those, and like we almost made up our minds like on our way there. Like
pretty much.
Yeah. Like we were like, you know, there's a couple movies playing that we were sort of kind of interested in seeing, and you know, as I was on my way to your place, like, you know, I mentioned that, and you were like, oh, fuck it, let's go see that.
Yeah.
And
like you texted it to me. I watched the trailer on my phone. I was like, yeah, fuck it, looks funny.
Yeah. And I don't think either of us had like super high expectations, you know.
Not really.
See Jesse Eisenberg, but he was great.
He was great. And I said this, and we were talking about it. Like, this is a role very suited to him. Mm-hmm. And I hate to typecast anybody, but like, this role was like perfect for him.
Yeah.
So. This is one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm very much into like satire and dark humor and stuff like that. So like it's very much in my lane, so to speak.
Yeah. So if you like, I was gonna name like Death to Smoochie, but I feel like that's a darker black comedy that not a whole lot of people have seen.
It's a good movie though.
But I mean, the people that do enjoy dark black comedies, if you haven't seen it, you should check that out too. But you know, if you just generally enjoy, you know, dark comedies, then you'll definitely like this.
So Eisenberg, basically, and again, spoilers. We'll getting to them a little sooner this time. So Eisenberg plays an accountant who's basically like a geek, a loser.
Doesn't stick up for himself.
Just,
the movie opens up with this French couple making fun of him in French, and then he doesn't do anything about it. He gets in his car, turns it on, and he's like finishing up a full-blown like on
it's like
CD.
lesson 25 of
learn
French.
Right, yeah, learning French, and
he's basically fluent at
this
point.
And the next scene you like find out that it's his dream to go to France.
Right. He ends up getting robbed by these bikers. And fucked up pretty good, so he's out of work, and he sees somebody. I can't remember exactly how this. He ends up like going to buy a gun.
Right.
For protection. And then, of course, they have that's a really funny scene where the guy, one of the lines that cracked me up, he's like, did you know that if you have children in the home, the odds of them dying by gunshot goes sky high? But you don't have kids, so you got to worry about that bullshit.
Yeah, that dude, like, he
was
deserves,
fucking great.
Right, yeah, because he didn't have just that one scene. Like, I mean, he just had, like, the phone call.
That and the phone call, but he killed it.
Right,
Every line was so fucking funny that he had it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. It was so good. It was one of those instances where you can't really recall so much because he had so many good.
Right, like
lines.
literally, it was just like banger after banger after banger.
Right.
Anyway, I can't remember exactly, but he has to wait for his background check before he can get the gun.
Right. So he's like walking home. Basically.
That's right. He's walking home.
And he walks by the
by
dojo.
the karate dojo. Yeah, and he ends up joining. It's not like. You're going to see everything coming.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no twists or turns. It's very straightforward, but that's fine. Like, not everything has to be, like, cerebral or trying too hard. It's just, like, a really, really funny satire. Mm-hmm. I saw some people compare it to Fight Club, which I don't... I mean, there's karate and there was fighting in Fight Club, but they're both satires. But like, they didn't really strike any of the same satirical beats to me. I mean, other than
it's I guess
some of the discussion on like masculinity, I guess.
Sure,
but in very different ways.
Yeah, I mean, you could draw a few comparisons, but I mean, just like you were saying, this is most of the story is telegraphed. Like you see a lot of stuff coming with Fight Club. That was the whole thing. Is you're not supposed to, right? Yeah, there was the twist was Tyler Durden is the narrator. They're one and the same.
Spoiler alert for a 20-year-old movie,
right? Which that's coming soon.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll be doing an episode next month on Fight Club, which I'm super fucking excited about. Since the day I started this podcast, I have been looking
counting down to the 20th anniversary.
Well, I mean, not the 20th anniversary, but like the opportune moment to do an episode, because I wanted to do it right. I wanted to make sure that I had the right people guesting on it.
Well, joke's on you because you don't.
Well, there's always 4 more weeks to get my affairs in order.
You have no other friends.
Yeah, well, you are painfully right on that.
That's terrible. But it's a very funny movie with a shocking ending that, again, it's not like out of left field. I will say that was probably my favorite part of the movie, and I was the only fucking person that laughed for like 30 seconds, and I was letting out like a huge fucking horse laugh. Right. And everybody else is just kind of like, oh, wow, he did that shit. And I was like, ah! And just like a fucking asshole in this theater with like 8 other people that are like, this fat fucking dipshit over here. There's nothing funny about that. And then they started laughing too. I was like, yeah, there's something funny about that fucking asshole.
Right.
It's a black comedy. You're supposed to laugh at the dark shit. Right? Yeah. That's the whole point. I think this is definitely an indie movie. I think it kind of came and went. I don't know how it did in terms of like box office or anything, but it doesn't matter because I'm sure it wasn't a huge like. I'm definitely
buying this shit on Blu-ray whenever it comes out.
I cannot recommend this movie enough. If you're into like satire and dark humor at all, this movie is fucking great.
Yeah, this is like a really good movie for like any kind of mood too. Yeah. Like I can't imagine too many instances where you couldn't be in the mood to watch this movie. It's like it's funny you you mentioned someone drawing a parallel between this and Fight Club.
Like I saw a lot of people doing that.
I thought it was more like a violent version of Napoleon Dynamite.
I could see that. It's definitely that same kind of like dry, awkward humor.
Right, yeah. But imagine Napoleon Dynamite, but more violent, a little bit more dark humor, with more swearing, because there really wasn't any swearing in Napoleon Dynamite, and it's all centric on Rex Kwon Do.
Yeah.
Like
oh my god.
Just imagine like a Rex Kwon Do spinoff. Yeah. But he's less ridiculous. I mean ridiculous, but in a different light. Yeah. Like he doesn't have the American flag parachute pants.
Unfortunately, no. That is the one fault with this movie is there's no American flag parachute pants.
Yeah.
Although the sensei's rainbow belt is one of the funniest fucking things.
When he gets him the fucking black belt. He's like, I can't believe you had this printed for me. He comes in with like a box full of
like leather belts,
right? Specialty made leather belts, and they're all in the same colors,
right? So like white, yellow, green, blue, on up to black.
Yeah,
and it's like I wanted to wear my yellow belt all the time because it makes me feel good. So I had this made. And then he pulls out this huge box. He's like, unfortunately, I couldn't order just one. So I thought, I'll help the dojo. And so he pulls out this like fucking 150 belts of different colors.
Right.
And the fucking sensei basically starts like weeping that he's got a black belt that he can wear. And what's he say? He's like, I can wear this anywhere. Like, it doesn't just have to be in the dojo.
Right. No, I'm like, motherfucker, you can get that at Walmart.
Right. Literally, that's like an $8 belt anywhere.
Right. Yeah. So that was, I think that. As far as scenes that stand out, that's one of those scenes that just had me rolling.
Now, again, it is a dark comedy, so it goes to some pretty uncomfortable places.
Sure.
But it's done in a comedic way. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's not like watching Requiem for a Dream.
Oh yeah,
right?
Ash to Ash.
Yeah, it's still ultimately a comedy, right?
Right.
Above all, so it works. It's hysterical, and I cannot recommend it enough. I almost wanted to go back and see it a second time, but
Right.
I could not find it playing. So I think we kind of lucked out and saw it the last weekend. It was in theaters or pretty close to it.
No, we saw it on opening.
Did we?
Opening weekend.
Well, I'm a fucking idiot. So.
No, but I mean, you're not wrong. Like we saw it.
We saw it on Saturday night.
It was pretty much a limited engagement kind of thing. Like,
and again, it was an indie movie, so smaller studio, smaller budget.
It did come out of nowhere though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I saw the trailer for it maybe 2 days before I recommended we go see it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it definitely came and went. But yeah, if it's not still in theaters and you're definitely interested in seeing it, I'm
sure it will be on digital and on disc before too long.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure probably come September. So.
You got any final thoughts on it?
No. I definitely echo pretty much everything that you say. Recommend it wholeheartedly.
All right. So I think that'll about do it. A couple of quick things. First, we have Shit That Doesn't Suck. David, you got anything? Something you've been digging on
I rewatched Mindhunter.
Okay, right.
Yes, of course. For those of you that don't know, Mindhunter, of course, was renewed for a second season. The second season is coming out, I believe, I think it's the 16th. I want to say August the 16th. And
it's here pretty soon.
Yeah, very soon. This upcoming week, I believe. And I'm super excited. If you're not familiar with the story. It's on Netflix, so you can check it out. For anyone that's interested at all in true crime, you will dig the shit out of it. If you're interested in David Fincher films or TV, I don't know if Fincher has done much TV other than Mindhunter, but if you like David Fincher movies of the true crime sort, like Zodiac or Fight Club, it's not true crime, but there's violence. So yeah, I rewatched that, and I just because I wanted to have it fresh in my mind, and yeah, it's definitely great. So I won't spoil any of it if you have not checked it out yet. So yeah, if you haven't, I suggest you do to get ready for the second season. So.
Right on. Mine is going to kind of be a little bit of a teaser for our next episode. I went back and watched a lot of this director's filmography. Almost a discography, but it's a filmography.
Yes.
So the next movie we're going to do is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the new Quentin Tarantino film.
Yes.
I went back and I didn't watch all of his filmography. I didn't have time, honestly, and there were too many other things. There's too many things that I want to see that are competing for my time, which is already limited. So I went back and I rewatched Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown, and Inglourious Bastards, which... Jackie Brown and Inglourious Bastards, and I watched Pulp Fiction a couple of months ago, so I guess we can count that too. So I watched 4 of his movies. Jackie Brown and Inglourious Bastards were my 1A and 1B, and I have a tough decision to come to next week because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, to prep for that, it unseated at least one of those.
Yeah.
So I went back and watched all those. Reservoir Dogs has some very uncomfortable parts in it, as does Pulp Fiction. And I think anybody who's seen those movies probably knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I don't want to give him a pass for any of that, but at the same time, everybody who's saying those things are terrible people. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, he's not really condoning it necessarily, I guess. It's complicated, and I'm definitely not the person to talk about it, but
right.
Just kind of be warned. It's a movie about criminals. But I'm a big Tarantino fan. We'll talk more about this on the next podcast, but I rewatched some of his movies, and we'll talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on the next one. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
For sure.
Anyway, any final thoughts?
No. I mean, I really enjoyed both movies that we talked about.
For sure.
I think the main difference between you and I, mainly when it comes to Midsommar, however you want to say it, is that was another weird thing. Is like everyone in the movie said Midsommar, but like
the
you
director said Midsommar.
Yeah, but Midsommar. So I wonder if that was like an artistic choice for.
I was wondering that, or if maybe it was like something to do with like translation and pronunciation from the Swedish and
maybe
actors. It's irrelevant.
I don't know, but the only thing the only difference between you and I is I think Hereditary is probably my favorite of his two films.
It's okay to be wrong.
I just not really for any particular reason. I don't think it's not in a light of it was more effective in its ability to be a horror movie or anything like that. It's just the enjoyment I derived from it. I enjoyed Hereditary a little bit more. It fucked me up more, so I think
that's fair. I mean, it can be more effective in that way. That's fine.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the only thing I'll reiterate.
All right. So one last thing, and then we'll get out of here. We'll put this episode in the books. I just want to give a quick shout out and a rest in peace to Mr. Rutger Hauer.
Oh yes,
passed away a couple of weeks ago now.
Rest in peace, Rutger. You was a real one.
He was a real one. Tremendous actor, very underrated. Of course, everybody remembers the Blade Runner scene,
right?
Which I mean, for good reason. But he was in a lot of other stuff. Some of it highbrow, some of it lowbrow. All of it great because of his performances. So
you were
tremendous talent,
majestic as fuck, riding on that horse in Lady Hawk. No,
sure, okay. But yeah, so tremendous loss there, and rest easy. Other than that, watch more movies. I guess that seems fitting to have a podcast with.
For sure.
So
yeah, sounds good.
See you next time.
See ya.